Multi-view streaming has already invaded the live sports arena, but it's always made sense for multiplayer gaming as well. Enter Twitch, which is today debuting its squad stream feature that lets up to 4 creators live stream together in the same window. Viewers will be able to jump in from a creator's page on desktop and mobile, enlarge the broadcast they want to focus on while keeping an eye on the others, and chat to each creator's community all at the same time. Not only does that equate to more angles to watch the action from, which should enhance everything from battle royales on Apex Legends to simultaneous Mario 64 speedruns, but will also offer more exposure to fledgling streamers. Though it's hardly a novel idea, defunct game streaming service OnLive included multi-view back in 2012, it keeps Twitch one step ahead of its rivals. That could prove critical as Google and Microsoft get set to release their Netflix-style game streaming platforms. Last week, we learned YouTube would be heavily integrated into Google's Stadia. And Microsoft has previously announced it is adding Mixer to its stacked development toolkit ahead of its Project xCloud unveiling at E3. 2 years ago, an interesting delivery drone concept was spotted at a military expo in Washington, D.C. called TACAD, or Tactical Air Delivery. The idea was to use gliders made out of cheap disposable materials to deliver a substantial amount of supplies over long distances. You'd have to launch these gliders from larger aircraft, but they'd be able to deliver hundreds of kilograms of supplies over 100 kilometers away. And then they'd just be left where they landed. Simple as that. Logistic Gliders Incorporated, based in Dixon, California, have recently concluded a successful series of flight tests with the U.S. Marine Corps. There are 2 different kinds of gliders, the LG-1K, which can carry about 300 kilograms, and the larger LG-2K, which can carry over 700 kilograms. The bigger LG-2K glider is the one being tested. It's about 4 meters long with a 7-meter wingspan and has a range of about 110 kilometers at an optimal glide speed of 240 kilometers an hour. As the video shows, the glider can be dropped from a helicopter or pushed out the back of a cargo aircraft, and then it will deploy its wings and glide either autonomously or via radio control. Landing is a sort of controlled crash no matter what, but depending on how much room you have, the glider can either belly land or pop a parachute for a nose landing, with honeycomb paper cushioning the impact a bit. The military already has a few different ways of delivering supplies to units in need, including the container delivery system and the Joint Precision Airdrop System. CDS is basically a pallet of stuff with a parachute attached that gets chucked out the back of a cargo aircraft. It's not very expensive, but the cargo aircraft has to fly overhead, which can be a problem sometimes for obvious reasons. JPads, meanwhile, is also a pallet of stuff with a parachute attached, but a bit fancier. It's an autonomous steerable parachute with a range of about 25 kilometers. JPads are expensive though, and all the electronics need to be recovered and reused, which is a hassle for anyone on the receiving end. What makes this supply strategy work is how cheap each individual glider is. As LGI says, each glider is essentially a wooden box. There are some electronics and a few servos that make up the autopilot, and gas springs that help the wings deploy, but that's pretty much it. The majority of the vehicle is weather-resistant plywood, and the entire thing only uses about 400 individual parts, which includes all the screws. The testing that took place over the last year included 12 flights with full-scale LG-2Ks, 6 of which were dropped from a sling beneath a helicopter, and 6 that were deployed from a small cargo plane. 5 gliders flew autonomously, and they all managed to land. LGI plans to continue its testing this year under a contract with the Marines, with loaded prototypes making test flights by the end of the year. Sony is celebrating a major milestone. It has already sold over 4.2 million PlayStation VR systems as of March 3rd, 2019, less than 3 years after it started selling the device. In other words, there are as many as 4.2 million people out there with PlayStation VR headsets of their very own. The tech giant started selling the device in 2016 as a virtual reality platform that plugs into a PS4 console, something that likely helped boost its sales and popularity. Some of the PlayStation VR's rivals, like the Oculus Rift and the original HTC Vive, need powerful computers to work. Seeing as Sony reported back in January that its PS4 sales were closing in on 100 million, it's easy to see how it was able to sell 4.2 million headsets. As VentureBeat noted, global market intelligence from IDC estimated that Rift and Vive shipments for the last quarter of 2018 to be around 300 and 230,000 units respectively. Meanwhile, Sony shipped 463,000 headsets in that same quarter. That's according to the firm. Now, in addition to revealing its PlayStation VR sales victory, Sony has also announced the next wave of games arriving on the virtual reality platform over the coming months. The 25 titles include Blood and Truth, that's a follow-up to one of the first PSVR games, London Heist, and Everybody's Golf VR, which everybody likes a good golf game.